We are approaching the amazing holiday of Pesach.
Woo!
And so I want to start to get into the mood and get into some of the themes that are relevant to Pesach. And the truth is that we're going to be talking about something so simple, so basic in our lives, and that is having communication, not in the classical sense of being able to talk to somebody else, but having an inner dialogue with ourselves, being able to have a narrative to our lives. Okay, this is what I want to discuss today. Shalom. And it really starts from teaching from the Arizal, that the Arizal says that Pesach can be read as Pesach, that it is a mouth that speaks. And that's what Pesach is all about, and that is how he explains the mitzvah of Sipor Yetziat Mitzrayim. That one of the highlights of the Seder is we have the mitzvah to tell the story, and it's called a Sipor. It's mamish, we call it the telling of the story of the Exodus, and that is that Pesach is about storytelling. Pesach is about the fact that we identify as storytellers, and that is how we spend the night. The night that we were born as a nation, we spend this telling our story. And so the Arizal says that the problem that we had in Egypt, that really what we were suffering from was something that's called Galut HaDibur, exile of speech. Okay, that means that really the most basic redeeming factor that happened as a result of the Exodus was that speech itself was in a certain sense in exile, that we didn't have the ability to speak, and through the Exodus, through the Geulat, so that was given back to us, the ability to speak. And this is something very basic, like we said before that when we were leaving Egypt, so it was like the birth of our nation, and being able to speak is the most basic thing about being alive. Okay, and this is something that Targum Mukla says, that the definition of when it says that Hashem created man, and it says Vahi Adam Nefesh Chaya, that the man was a living soul. So Targum Mukla famously says that Ruach Mimalala, that means that he was speaking. It means that he had the ability to speak. And there's something very basic about being human, about being able to speak. And that is because that like only humans are able to have this amazing thing of communication. Because what do we do when we're communicating? We're able to express with our bodies what's going on in our souls. Okay, so in what does it mean to be alive? To be alive is that your soul and your body are connected. Like when you're dead, you also have a body, and you also have a soul, but they just aren't connected. And so what it means to be alive is that there's a connection between your body and your soul. And where is our body and our soul connected? It's through our speech. It's through our speech that we're able to express through our body what is inside of our soul. And that is something which is unique to human beings. That the communication of animals has nothing to do with their souls. It's nothing. They're not sharing deep ideas. They're not sharing anything that's real. That's really essential. And what's specifically human is the fact that we're able to express our soul through our speech, and that is why when we were born, when we became a living people, so the first thing that needed to be returned to us is the ability to speak. So the Zohar tells us that this idea of Galut HaDibur was actually expressed in Moshe Rabbeinu, because when we meet Moshe Rabbeinu, so it says that Moshe is a kevad peh and a kevad lashon. Okay? It talks about him that he has some kind of speech impediment, and he describes himself as that he has a heavy mouth and a heavy tongue. So I want to try to analyze what are these two elements that Moshe was talking about. And the Zohar says that the reason why Moshe had this imperfection is actually because he was an expression of his people. Because his whole essence was to be leader of the Jewish people. So because his people were experiencing this Galut HaDibur, because they were in this lack of ability to speak, so naturally, the person that represented them, so he was going to be lacking in this element of being able to speak. And so he was the physical expression of the fact that the Jewish people in Egypt were experiencing this Galut HaDibur. So I want to try to understand, what does it mean that the Jewish people had this kvad peh and kvad lashon, and what does it mean that we're being redeemed in these two elements? So first of all, there's something very, very noteworthy, that when Moshe is taking us out of Egypt, so he tells us numerous times, before we leave Egypt, he tells us that you need to know that this is a big story. This is a big story. You know, it's really a good story. It's Yasmin time. It's scary. I mean, like ancient Egypt itself is like, because it's a good backdrop for a good narrative. But you have this splitting of the sea, and you have the frogs, and you have this like the everything, the boils, and it's so exciting, and you know it's not stam that there was you had the Ten Commandments, and you had the Egyptian prince, Prince of Egypt, and you have these like Hollywood was into Yetzias Mitzrayim. Like it's just a good story. It's like they make lots of money. It's just a good story. And there's a fascinating pasuk that says that Hashem says that Uleman Tesaper V'Ozne Bincha V'Mincha Isha Sari Salata B'Mitzrayim. That it sounds from the pasuk that Hashem wanted it to be a Jewish story. Hashem could have taken us out of Egypt just like, no more Egyptians, that's it. And like he wanted it to be exciting. He wanted this, let my people go. And he wanted it to be a good narrative, because he wanted to create a story. And this is something that was critical to Moshe Rabbeinu. The Moshe Rabbeinu, before we left Egypt, so he tells us 3 times. He says, that we have the question of the Ben Harasha. Then there's another pasuk for Chayav ki yomeru yelechem b'nechem ma avodas lachem. We have first we have the Chacham, and then we have the Rasha, and it says v'higata lebincha. We have the question. We have the question of the she'enu yodeh l'sha, that you tell him at Petachlo, and 3 times Moshe Rabbeinu tells us that you should tell the story, and the story hasn't happened yet. You know, it's all in the intro, and he's like, you need to know this is a big story. That this is like, you keep your eyes open for the fact that this is a story, and I think that what he wanted to create over here. I saw this interesting quote. There's an American author named Paul Auster that he said something it's very simple, but it's very true. He said that stories only happen to people who are able to tell them. And it's very simple, because like really stories happen to everybody, right? It's just that to everybody they aren't stories. You know, like they say, like if there's a tree falling in the forest and no one hears it, doesn't make a sound. So like a story that doesn't have anyone to tell it, so it doesn't make a sound. You know, it does. There's no. If the person isn't able to process that there's a story, then no story happened. It was just like a mishka babel of different interactions, of different events that took place. So there is no story. A story has to have a beginning, a middle, and end. It has to have a conflict. So if no one's telling the story, then there is no story. And so Moshe Rabbeinu wanted us to know that, guys, you're living a story. But the truth is that, I don't know if this is what he meant, but I've noticed another thing, that another level of that stories only happen to people that tell stories, that when you're aware about the fact that you're a storyteller, then you notice so many more stories that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. And like most people, that their job isn't to be storytellers, that they aren't always like that. That isn't what they do. So like so many things happen to us that are so objectively interesting, but they go under the radar, because we don't have our antennas up for like, hey, this is an awesome story. I could make this into a great centerpiece of something. And when your eyes are open, when you're in this business of telling stories, so then you notice that life is actually full of stories, and you become aware of the depth of life and the beauty of life and the complexity of life, and you're noticing that actually that life is full of so many stories going on simultaneously. So another element of the when Moshe Rabbeinu was telling us that you're telling a story. So what part of what he was telling us was not just that you're like you need to know that there's something to pay attention to, that he wants us to know that you're going to be storytellers. And from now on, so everything that's happening, it's part of something big. And this is a very, very basic element of of all of the Geulah requires us to be able to put everything that we have into the context of a story. I've said many times that I read that there was a therapist that would describe that in his eyes a successful therapy requires that he's able to give over to a patient 3 ideas. Number 1, I have a story. Number 2, I am the hero of my story. And number 3, my story has a happy ending. Okay, there's three separate, distinct, critical elements that a person needs to understand. Okay, so what are these 3 elements? So number 1, I have a story. What do you mean I have a story? That there's a cause and effect. That before I have a story, then I have Paul Auster's problem. That I don't realize that there's a beginning, a middle, and end. I just everything seems to just be happening to me. I'm in a state of just reacting, of just like I'm just stuck. Like I don't know what's going on, and just to understand, to make some kind of sense out of what's happening, and just gives it a certain peace of mind. Gives it the fact that I can see how I got from point A to point B. So just to hear my story back to me, that it just makes everything just more easy to take in. Like the chaos is it causes so much suffering when we feel like everything is just random. And to understand, just to hear our story, just is so healing itself. And even if I'm not doing anything about it, just when I feel like I'm just in the ocean and the waves are just taking me everywhere, so that I feel like I'm dying, and just to be able to hear my story, how I got from there to here, so that itself is an amazing, amazing healing. Okay, that's the first step. That's the first element of having a story. And then he says that that's not enough. That the second point is that I'm the hero of my story. What do you mean I'm the hero of it? I'm the protagonist. It means that it's all about me. That this is my story. And that what am I going to do? The protagonist of the story is the guy who's calling the shots. He's the one who has to make the right decisions. He's the one that if he doesn't make the right decisions, then things are going to get messed up. If he makes the right decisions, then he's going to have happily ever after. And so to see myself as the one whose decisions make a difference, so that's very empowering. Okay, to understand that this is the secret of free will, really. That to understand that I have the power to decide my future. I'm not stuck in anything. I'm able to determine my destiny. And that's what it means, that I'm the protagonist. That means I'm the hero. And so part of this, the second element of turning us into storytellers and turning Yetzias Mitzrayim into our story, so is that we need to know that we are empowered here, that we are making the difference as to what is going to be the end of our story. And number 3, so our story has a happy ending. Okay, and this is of course something which is very clear in Yetzias Mitzrayim, that the first thing that the Moshe tells us is that you're going to get out of here. That Hashem is going to save you. It's going to bring you into Eretz Yisrael. And knowing that we have a happy ending, this is what's called tzipiyah liyeshua. This is the fact that we anticipate the Geulah, the fact that it's in our veins, the fact that we're anticipating, that we're waiting, that we know that there is going to be a happy ending. This is, people ask me all the time, like, why does like they asked me before Tucker, why is Mashiach such an important thing? Like, what is it? I like Judaism. I like keeping Shabbos. I like keeping kosher. Yeah, Mashiach, not Mashiach. What's the big deal? It sounds like I'm on board until that Mashiach Beis Hamikdash business. That sounds too cultish, and so I taught them that it's very simple. It's very simple. You know what it means? The fact that we believe in Geulah, the fact that we believe in Mashiach, the fact that it's one of our core beliefs, the principles of faith is to believe in Mashiach. You know what that really means? On simple terms, it means that we believe that this whole story, called the story of mankind, it has a happy ending. That as opposed to other cultures, that they believe that at the end of times there's something called Armageddon, and there's apocalypse, and there's and what's at the end? We're going to ashes, ashes, we all fall down. and like we believe that it's just the opposite. We believe that we're moving towards perfection, we're moving towards Geulat, we're moving towards redemption. And that is what gives us the strength to wake up in the morning. Like if honestly, if we're going towards destruction, so like who cares? Why should we bother? Why should we try? Like if we really give it our all, so we're still gonna just all burn to death. Like it's like who cares? And so the basic Jewish belief is that no, like it's gonna be good. Even if you mess up, it's gonna be good. But like the more that you make the right decisions and move your life, push your life towards decisions of Geulah, towards decisions of redemption, so then it's going to come faster. And that is the basic thing that gives us the courage and the strength to be able to wake up every day and just show up and give it our all. So this is the elements of healing. This is what it means. What it means, like that. What the successful therapy session is, not a session, a treatment is the person is able to really internalize that I have a story. I'm the hero of my story, and my story has a happy ending. So this is what gives us the Geulah of the Geulat HaDibur, the first element of the Dibur, first element of having this redemption of speech, is that when we were in Mitzrayim, when we were in Egypt. So the word Mitzrayim, it comes from the word confinements, Meitzarim. Meitzarim means to be confined. So a person who's in Meitzarim, so he doesn't have a story. Like you're just some tribe, colonizers, came out of nowhere. You don't have a backstory. And giving us a story was the first thing that gives us healing. And Pesach, so he made a very, very deep point. And that is that both Egypt and the Jewish people, they both were obsessed with being eternal. And they did it in very opposite ways. That the Egyptian culture, ancient Egyptian, they wanted to be eternal. So what did they do? They built pyramids, they built the Sphinx, they built mummies, and they wanted to just outdo time. And the Jewish people, we also wanted to be a eternal people, but not in ruins, but in our very being. And we as a people, we outlived history. We don't just last through history. We're alive throughout time, and we are the eternal nation from the fact that we are simply unstoppable. We're simply like we just have what it takes, that nothing can get rid of us. And so where does it come from? So we said that the reason why we're unstoppable is actually because we have a story. Because the fact that we have a story, this is what gives us an identity, and a person has an identity, so there is nothing that can stop him. So this is the very basic thing of having a story is what gives us our eternal existence, and this is what helps us understand what we're doing in this world, because it's knowing what we are, knowing that we have an identity, is, in other words, it's saying that a person that comes into the world, so he needs to know that I'm writing a chapter in this book, and I'm part of a bigger story. There was one Rav that was making fun of a different Rav, and he said every word that comes out of his mouth is like an entire book. So they asked him, like, what are you saying? Like, what does that mean? Every word is like a whole book. So he said, it has nothing to do with the word before it, nothing to do with the word after it. so to know that we have a story, so that means that whatever I'm doing in my life, so I'm like, history didn't begin on my birthday. Like I'm chapter 5786 in this long book, and so I have to make sure that I'm not like starting from scratch. I'm not inventing the wheel, and like I'm building off of what history has given how with the Jewish people, what the Jewish story has been until now. And not only now am I starting there, but I'm bringing it somewhere. I'm bringing it somewhere, and I'm allowing that the next generation is going to see, well, now I see that this is a new chapter. Now I see that there's, you brought it from here to there, and now I'm going to bring it to the next step. And then just giving over this torch of bringing over the story. There's a very beautiful thing I saw once from the Chidah, that he writes that when Mashiach comes, so he's going to reveal that there's a very, very long book, the long book that no one has revealed before, and it's based on two psukim in the Torah. Pashas V'Aleischa, it says Vayhi b'nsa Haaron v'yama Moshe kuma Hashem yivusei vacha v'nusa mesanecha mipanecha uv'nucho yomar shuva Hashem merivot hafei Yisrael. So there's something very unique about these two psukim. There's these upside down nuns before and after these two psukim, and so the Chidah says that these upside down nuns is a hint that really this is a condensation of a very, 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 very long book. And when Mashiach comes, so he's going to explain what this book is. So I once heard, I don't know if the Chidah says this or if Moshe Shapiro explains that what is this? Vayhi b'nsa Haaron is talking about when the Jewish people were in the Midbar, and the Midbar is a metaphor for the Galut. It's a metaphor for being in exile. So he said like this: that what is the Chumash? What is the Chumash? The Chumash is the story of the Jewish people. And then we got to the Navi. Okay, and what's the Navi? Then we have Yeshua. And what's Yeshua? He's a prophet, and he's writing down the next chapter of the Jewish people. And then we have the book of Shmuel. Shmuel was a prophet. So what does he write in his book? He writes the next chapters of the story of the Jewish people. And we have all these prophets that are writing all these books. And then we get to the last prophet. The last prophet was Malachi. And it was during the beginning of the Second Temple that he knew that he was going to be the last prophet, and that's why at the very end of his Sefer, so he has two final messages that the Jewish people need to know. Zichru Torah Moshe, that first of all, don't forget the Torah, and then the very last pasuk is, Hinei Anochi Sholech Lachem et Eliyahu Navi, that behold, I'm sending Eliyahu Navi, there's going to be Geulat, there's going to be redemption, don't give up. First of all, don't forget the Torah, and second of all, don't give up. And these are he knows that this is the last Torah. There's not going to be prophecy for a very, very long time. Okay? And then Malachi dies, and there's no more prophecy. So, until now, and since the creation of the world, until Malachi dies, so what is the Torah? The Torah is the story of the Jewish people. And so, what happens then? So then there's no more prophets, so then the story of the Jewish people stops being Torah? So he said, no, of course the story of the Jewish people continues to be Torah. It's just that we don't have a prophet to be able to put it into words. So when Mashiach comes, so he's going to teach us this long, long book, which is the Torah of the story of the Jewish people. He's going to put it into the narrative. He's going to write the story that we have been writing from Hashem's perspective, from the objective perspective of what is actually happening to the Jewish people all these years. The story that we have been writing, the story that we have been creating, every single one of us. I once heard from Shmuel Shmankel of Nikolsburg, Zechan Levracha, that when Mashiach comes, he's going to show each and every one of us how we participated in making the Mashiach come closer. How we brought it one step further, how we advanced it. And so this is the story that we are actually writing. This is the story that we are writing, and this is the Torah that we are creating with all of our decisions, with all of the narratives that we're making. So this is the first element when it says kvad peh, when it says that in Egypt, so kvad peh, it means that we didn't have a story, we just didn't know if we're coming or going, we just felt completely lost. And this is the geula of kvad peh, is that to understand that I have a story, to understand that I'm going somewhere, to understand that I'm part of this amazing, amazing heritage, and that I'm bringing it one step to the next level, I'm bringing it one step closer to Mashiach. Okay, so now, then there's the second element. The second element is that Moshe Rabbeinu was called a kvad lashon, that it's not just that he couldn't speak at all, so it's not just that he couldn't tell stories, that he had an issue with lashon. Lashon literally means language. And this is something even deeper. that part of the Geulah is that it's not just to be able to tell stories, but it's the kind of stories, the nature of the story that we tell ourselves. And this is something which is very critical. There's something in psychology, something called narrative therapy. Narrative therapy was this idea that was developed by Michael White and David Epstein in the 80s and 90s. And the idea is that we all experience life based on the stories that we tell ourselves. And this is something that you might have heard of, that they call this SIR. That's stimulus, interpretation, response. Yeah, something like that. So all the things that happen to us. So that's the stimulus, and then there's the interpretation, and so we interpret what that means. Whatever happened to us, we interpret however we decide to interpret it. So let's say that I messed up with something, and I didn't do well on an interview, so I didn't get the job. So my interpretation is that I'm a loser. And so based on my interpretation that I'm a loser, so I decide not to try next time. I decide that I'm never going to get a job. I'll just stay in bed for the rest of my life. And so that's a logical response based on my interpretation, right? So what can we do instead? So if we have a different interpretation, then we can have a different response. And so the trick is to understand that it's not the stimulus that actually brought the response. It's my interpretation that brought the response, because there's actually an alternative interpretation that I'm able to give it an alternative interpretation and say that it's not that I'm a failure. It's that I made a particular mistake, which is fixable, and next time I can do better. And so by giving this alternative interpretation, so I can have an alternative response. And the next time I'll be even more ready, I'll be even more excited, and I'll be more successful. And that's really the way it's supposed to be, right? So in his terms, in White's terms, so he was mostly talking about the fact that about things like this, that not considering yourself a failure, that my identity is separate from my decisions. Okay? That I can, just because I made a mistake doesn't mean that I am a mistake. Just because I failed doesn't mean that I am a failure, right? And so, and by divorcing my identity from the things I do, so I'm able to give different interpretations to all of the things that happen to me, or the things that I do, either way, and that I can say that I never tried before, so I just don't have what it takes, and I've been told that I'm not smart, so I can label myself as whatever labels people have been telling me, and I can tell myself all these stories and believe them, and based on those beliefs, I'm going to be able to destroy my future. And the trick to narrative therapy is to make a new story, is to tell myself a new story in the way that I talk to myself. This is something that Rabbi Twersky would talk about. That he was always very admiring his father, the way that the father would speak to him. That whenever he would make a mistake when he was a child, so his father's response was always "It's pasnished," that it's not appropriate for you. That is, instead of saying that you're bad, so he would say that this isn't something that you should be doing. You're so much better than that. Which is really such a building thing to say. It's such an empowering thing to say, because instead of saying that you're bad, which is telling a person that drilling into the person that you just don't have what it takes. You're never going to make it because you're bad and you're worthless. So it's saying the opposite. It's saying that, hey, that you are so good, you are so talented, you have so much potential that what you did just now is not your real self. And that's a perfect example of the way that we speak to somebody, the way that we speak to ourselves, really changes the way that we react. It really changes the way that we're experiencing life. So it's very interesting that there's there's cultural things about this as well. Who speaks Spanish? So is it true that in Spanish it's they don't speak if somebody broke something? So in English, so you say that Rivka broke the glass, and is it true that in Spanish like it's you don't talk about the person, you talk just it broke?
Really?
No.
If I write down something, I don't say like, oh my gosh, I broke it. I just say it broke.
That's what I read. No, maybe
I guess it's more cultural than the language itself.
Okay.
Like Mexico, I think you'll just say you broke that.
okay, because Mexicans are Americans, really.
Unless it's like a drug cartel and you don't want to tell them the truth. Like, it broke, I don't know. Just mysterious.
There's something in Hebrew.
That's why they like the active versus the passive. That's what you're referring to, right?
I don't know.
Like saying like I broke something or it was broken.
Right. Yeah.
Lanifa.
I think so. So there's something like that would point to the fact that like Americans are more into blaming, like the English is more and whereas in Spanish it's just more into just like the facts, like it's like stop pointing fingers, just like deal with the reality, right? So I was trying to be nice, So and so no, there's the different many Spanish-speaking countries. Maybe I picked the wrong example. So. And another thing would be that in Hebrew, so there's so many words for simcha. We say that in Ashabara, so Ashabara, Sasav, Simcha, Gila, Rina, Ditza, Chedva, and we have so many words for simcha because we're experts in simcha. Because there's nuances, because we're living simcha in such a deep way that we have very precise words. Like they say that like in like Eskimos have like 50 different words for snow. There's different kinds of snow, because when you're an expert in snow, so then everything has its nuances. And so we're experts in simcha, and so that we know how to define the precise element of the simcha that we are referring to. And so in the Galut HaDibur, so when Moshe Rabbeinu was a kvad lashon, so it doesn't just mean that he didn't know how to tell a story. It meant that he didn't have the words to describe what he was going through. He didn't have the ability to describe. He didn't have the ability to express it into words. And the Geulat of the Dibur is that to understand how to express, to understand, to put into words the pain that I was going through, and in a way that it builds me, in a way that before I had an expression, so I'm feeling pain. And now that I have words, so I can say that I was oppressed, and I was a victim, and it wasn't my fault, and I can use words to tell the story in a building way, in order that I can heal from it. So the kvad lashon and the tikkun halashon, the geulat halashon, is something even deeper than just knowing that I have a story. It's knowing that the way that I tell my story, that the words I use in my narrative, actually make or break the whole thing. And I think there's something very special about the fact that we're speaking Hebrew. The fact that we're here in the land of Israel and we speak Hebrew. So what's unique about Hebrew is that it says that Hashem speaks Hebrew. It's that when Hashem created the world, so He created the world with speech, and the speech that He was speaking was Hebrew. And so the fact that we're able to in every interaction to be able to use Hashem's language in our interactions, so that's awesome. It's subconsciously, it's spiritually bringing Hashem's presence into every element of our lives, and to the point that it says that to learn Hebrew is considered like a mitzvah. It's considered it's like a subcategory of learning Torah is to learn Hebrew because Hebrew is holy. It's just learning biblical Hebrew is a holy endeavor, and so because of this, because of the depth and the holiness of the language of Hebrew, so there's naturally the way that we experience the definitions of things is very special because it's very real. For example, I just want to end off with 2 points which are precisely relevant to what we're talking about. That is the number one, that the word for Galut and the word for Geulah have 2 similar letters, right? Gala is to exile, is Gimel Lamed, hey? And Gaal, which is to redeem, is Gimel Aleph Lamed. So they both have this Gimel and this Lamed, and just the Galut is with a hey, and the redemption is with an Aleph. So what does this mean? Why is there a connection between the Galut and the Geulah? So this is exactly the narrative therapy, that it's only through the Galut that we get to the Geulah. That we would never have become the nation that we became if not for the hardships. Not only that, but in all of the exile, in this long exile that we're experiencing now. So it says in the Gemara, the reason why Hashem sent us into exile is in order to recruit all of the converts. That there's something that we needed to take from all of the nations of the world. That there were certain sparks of Kedusha which were there, and if we wouldn't have gone to the depths of the four corners of the world, then there would have been these elements of foreign culture that we wouldn't have been able to bring back. So that you can't have Geulah until every element of Kedusha from the four corners of the world are found, are elevated, and are brought back into Kedusha in order to rebuild Torah in this new and improved way. So the thought that that our dream is that it should be exactly the way it was 2,000 years ago, that's a mistake. That's like saying that, this whole 2,000 years was such a waste. It was so dumb. That no, this whole 2,000 years, it was bringing us to exactly where we need to get, because it's the only way that we can be able to elevate all of these sparks from all of these elements of culture, of all these elements of philosophy and psychology and medicine and it's unimaginable how many elements of foreign culture there are to elevate, and that's why we need to go out to all the elements of the world, and that is the purpose of the Galut. And so it's actually a bracha that the only way that we can come to Geulah is only through the Galut. So that's the reason why the word Galut and the word Geulah are the same letters. Yeah.
And why are so many Jews just scattered in New York? Or not scattered,
concentrated
in this one little area.
Which area?
In New York.
New York.
If we're supposed to be scattered all around.
New York is a Muslim country, no? Don't worry, New York has plenty of Goyish culture, I promise you. But it was a nice try.
But scattered all around the world.
We're also scattered all over the world. Chabad, yeah. We're building the base of Mikdash. So, and the last thing that I want to finish off with is that another element of that in Lashon Kodesh, the fact that we're experiencing life, our Lashon, our Geulah of Lashon is that we're able to experience life with Lashon Kodesh is specifically this, and that is that in Lashon Kodesh the word for Dibur, which is speech, is the same word as Dabar, which is a leader, okay, which is an expression of ruling, of kingship, and this is an expression, this is an idea which is used in Kabbalah. It's called Malchut Peh, that there's a kingship of speech, which is, in other words, that when you speak about something, then you rule over it, as opposed to before you speak about it, that it rules over you, and which is really the ABCs of therapy, that just speaking something out makes it less scary and less overwhelming. And so the narrative therapy that Moshe Rabbeinu is giving us is that the Geulah, this redemption of speech, is specifically in the fact that he's teaching us how to tell the story so well. This is specifically what brings us the power to bring it to the Geulah. Okay? So it's mamish. It's because we're experiencing life with Lashon HaKodesh. So it's because of this that we understand that we control things through our ability to speak them out in the right way. So I bless us all that we should mamish be able to know that we are part of this amazing story and be able to tell the story the right way, to become expert storytellers, that we're not going to take pessimistic views, we're not going to think that we're not going to shame ourselves, not going to give ourselves these verdicts and give ourselves these labels, and to constantly know that we have such a bright future, and things are going to be so amazing, and the Geulah is mamish very imminent, and to know that we are moving towards perfection, and that we are writing a chapter that nobody else has ever written before, and nobody else will write ever again, with every day of our lives. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, l'chaim.